I think the mic's working now. Let me know if you can hear me. I was a little unprepared. I didn't think this was actually going to kick off. I've been watching it for about an hour. The front is running north to south right through the center of Garrett County, and the low is off to the west out towards Ohio, and that's what's causing this as the last bits of this storm system for today at least. We still got 2 days of this overall system hanging over us, probably till Tuesday evening. But this is really starting to kick off up here in PA. And this is already a hard hit area. This is the worst hit area. Latrobe, Johnstown, Indiana County, Westmoreland County. That's where almost all of the 500,000 plus have been without power, and some are still probably without power in that area now. Friday, people were just starting to get the numbers knocked down for power turned back on, and they were out all week. So this really is unnecessary and unwarranted and horrible for these people. This cell here, nearing Somerset and 7670 interchange, has had a 80% probability for hail on that. Let's take a look at that, because that's probably rotating pretty well too. Let me turn off the MRMS. So we're just getting a raw radar data. And you can see the cell has a bit, not really much rotation at this point, but when they first put this one here, they had it as a possible tornado in the severe thunderstorm warning. So if you're in this area, it's a very small cell. And we have another one entering Garrett County. Looks like it's just left of, or just west of Deep Creek Lake, and this is rotating a little bit. It's very small cells. I mean, I can't believe how small they are, and they're moving very slowly, only 15 miles an hour, but they are rotating and they are producing hail, and they have the potential for possibly even a tornado. I hate when these storms move to the north. I call them ridge riders. When they're moving north, northeast in the mountains, in the direction of these same mountain ridges, because they ride along that ridge, and no, nothing like this is anywhere else. This is only in Western Maryland, West Virginia, Morgantown, not even really Cumberland at this point. This is all at the Maryland-West Virginia line, Deep Creek Lake area, Somerset, PA, and eastern Pittsburgh. And then it's starting to get a little ugly down here in Elkins, Buchanan, West Virginia. This cell here in Buchanan, I've been watching this for about 30 minutes before I started the live stream, and it's definitely rotating pretty good. So we do have a little bit of a tornado threat here, and the hail is definitely going to be an issue as the next couple hours persists. But let me back out and I'll show you there's nothing else anywhere else. So you can see there's already there were four popped up on this. There we go, that's better. Now we can take a better look at these. So up in Blairsville, serious hail core and a lot of lightning. Let's turn a live scan on here so I can get continuous live data. There we go. And then what that does is it directly links me to that radar tower, as you can see in the corner there. These cells are getting to be ugly quick. This line is developing right along the front. So we got a big low pressure sitting over here in Ohio, and this whole thing is spinning just like a nor'easter, same, or a hurricane, or it's a big cyclone basically. And you can see these storms are trailing up along this. Then they start to turn as they get up to the north. up by Lake Erie. Because they're going around this low pressure center right here. So we've got two layers of storms here, and this storm out in Ohio, this secondary line here has just west of the West Virginia-Ohio border, Ohio River. This has been active for hours. Been watching this move really slow. This is WSV3 radar. It's probably right now the best there is. Let's take a look at the velocities. Very slow moving storms, but they are rotating. The storm here just north of the Maryland line, Garrett County north of the Maryland line, is rotating. You can see it right there. Very broadly. Anytime you have hail cores that are dumping hail, you're going to get rotation as it's displacing the air that comes out. This guy here in Garrett County, and they're wobbling left and right. I don't like that either. Hail detection there. WSV3. Here, I'll show you, hang on. Here's the logo. It's a desktop laptop software. And it's 25 bucks a month. So it's not cheap. So we're starting to get a good bit of wind shear, and let's look at the gate to gate. Yeah, see this, I don't like that at all. On Route 219 south of Friendsville, this storm's starting to tighten up, and it's showing a rotation, mezzo rotation already. So we may be in for some tornadoes in Garrett County, West Virginia area. That's definitely wrapping up. That's why I don't like these storms when they run along these ridges, parallel or semi-parallel. They tend to drag along those ridge lines that are 2,000–3,000 feet tall or more, and it causes them to rotate a little stronger. So we may get a tornado warning in Garrett County. Yeah, it's wrapping up tightly. All these cells are starting to show rotation. Right there too. So if you're in Friendsville, Grantsville area, down towards Mountain Lake Park, Oakland, it's already north of you, but it's right on 219. So all we can do is sit and watch now. And we're getting a mezzo tornado rotation, possible one, and some big hail, 1.25 inch hail, 100% on the Buckhannon, West Virginia area. So it's definitely dumping hail, and there's the mezzo. So this is a possible rotating storm heading towards Clarksburg. A lot of gate-to-gate shear, look at that. This measures the winds, and when they're in a tight formation, the gate-to-gate shear shows me that this is a strong area of winds that are rotating around each other, and they shaded blue and red, and the brighter the color, the more strong the winds and the rotation is. And it rates it on a scale, and that's what that little index is. So it's at a 4, and it shows me how high it is. So this looks like we are just west of Kaiser, and it's moving north. It's not coming east like normal. So this is actually it's driving straight north on 219. And 42 towards Friendsville. So if you're in Friendsville on the Maryland PA line, let's change cameras, see what's happening there. Friendsville road camera, can't really see much. That's useless. There you can see on the Morgantown cam, old Morgantown Road. Oops. Starting to look pretty bad off in the distance there. Let me stretch that camera up. You can see in the sky up here on the left side of the cam. It's starting to look pretty ugly there. Clean that up. Ooh. Not a good way to end a Sunday night. Let's get a PA cam going. The system was down all day. The last time it was storming, but PA traffic cams are pretty sparse in that area, but we'll see. What we can find. It may still all be down too because of the power and the wires. We're pretty torn up from the last storm. There's nothing working out there right now, it looks like. Yeah, most of the cameras are still out around the Pittsburgh region. That's crazy. That last storm that went through there really tore that area up. Nothing. Incredible. Nothing of use. Alright, well, let's try West Virginia cams. Excuse me. It looks like these storms are getting uglier as they go north into PA. And that first cell up there by Indiana is really getting wicked. Then the second cell still down here by Route 76. Somerset, just west of Somerset, is ugly. With some hail in rotation. And then Friendsville, you got a cell on top of you. It's not severe warned. It's putting out a lot of lightning. And definitely looks like it has some hail in it. Settling down a little bit on the rotation. So what happens is these cells will drag, especially when they're crossing the ridge lines. They'll get spun up as the ridge raises up underneath and then extends below. Now Buckhannon, a couple of cells moving in that area, and this one here is definitely still rotating and has a pretty good hail core on it. So 1.5 inches hail in Buckhannon right now. Good rotation. Not quite enough for a tornado at this point, but definitely probably micro bursting with 60-mile-an-hour winds or stronger. See the mezzo? No, the mezzo's still there, so it's still showing that rotation, and that could just be from the wind dropping down. Computer's starting to act up again. I gotta figure out what's going on with this thing. Not very many cameras in West Virginia, especially the north end. But that's to be expected. Nothing's working. We're gonna have this problem again today. I'll leave this camera up because they're approaching that area. '79 Clarksburg area, and in between Clarksburg and Elkins is where this very strong cell is right here. with the severe warning on it. Buchanan kind of wobbling. I'm keeping an eye on this one. This is most important because this is headed towards Morgantown and the Maryland PA line, Maryland West Virginia line, and the rotation is up to a 6 now. So this is probably going to end up with a tornado warning on it if it keeps it up. Let's stop this movement. Let me show you what this cell is doing and where it is. This is the most important. This cell is headed straight north towards Morgantown. Secondary cell to the left or west, and then there's another set of another cell behind it that's rotating. Meso detection on that. Severe warning on this with hail. 90% possibility of severe hail, 70%, and then 1.25 inch hail, and it's also showing a meso detection, which means it's rotating pretty well. So it's got a big rotation on it. 23,000 feet depth of rotation. Usually that's when the tornado will start showing up. The storm going towards Clarksburg has hail detected on it somewhat, and it's having more trouble getting going, but it's on the west side of 79, and these cells are just riding along right up 79 towards Morgantown. So we want to keep a close eye on them. These are the cells we need to watch. These cells in Friendsville and north into the PA line aren't as bad right now. They are not showing as much severe capability. Once they cross the Route 70 and 76 area in Pittsburgh, they're turning ugly and developing more. And you can see this whole thing is a big low pressure system that's been causing all these rain and storms. I'll put this back in motion. You can see how it's all spinning around that low pressure. And as these brush up against the mountains and the ridge lines, they can get going with rotation and causing a tornado or microbursting winds. Let me open up my other program here. Put this camera back up. Wish we could see a little better, but not many cameras to choose from. No, this is only in Western Maryland. The rest of Maryland is not included in this. They're only out in the mountains, on the other side of the mountains in West Virginia, and Garrett County, Maryland has a few cells, but they're almost out of Garrett County. So we'll leave this camera up. It'll be seeing some rain and storms coming up very soon. Let me put this over here. Alright, this is Radar Omega. This is the other program I use. Yeah, it's hard to say where these things are wobbling back and forth. That's why I pulled up this other program. It's actually showing it leaning towards the direction it's traveling, leaning towards in between Morgantown and Cumberland, but these programs don't predict that very accurately. So you can see the basic storm cell here. The actual text. What's going on here? I hope this is not acting up again. I didn't get a chance to reboot everything. I just came inside when this started. These programs are so taxing. Yeah, it's a duplicate. That's what I thought. I don't know how that happened, but we can get rid of that. I don't get what's going on with this program here. But this program's a little cleaner and easier to understand. I'm gonna mute my mic so I can take care of something real quick. I'll be back in a few minutes. Not much we can do right now, but just keep an eye on this and see which way it's headed. But it is starting to turn to the east. So, Mike in Cheat Lake there, you need to keep an eye on this. Call everybody and let them know. This is a worst case scenario going into the late evening on a Sunday. Have a possible tornadic supercell coming at you. And they only put the... I don't like how they issue these warnings so tight to the storm. They should be extending this out. At least, you know, to Kingwood and Grafton and maybe even over into Oakland. I would, if it was me, I would be putting these boxes a lot larger and extending these warnings out, especially when the storm is moving fast. But this storm is 25 miles an hour, they say. And not to mention that the National Weather Service has not been very good on the weekends and have a horrible track record lately of off hours and on weekends especially keeping up with these cells. Let me split this into two and have to shrink it down a little bit. Trying to get you guys a good view. So we've got this is near Clarksburg right here. This bottom cam and this top cam is Old Morgantown, West Virginia. So we've got eyes on the direction of the storms. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, Mike. Especially, you know, you guys don't get warnings out there until it's like last minute. That's why I try to cover this area better, especially on the weekends when it may just be youngins working, or unpaid interns or whatever. If you ever worked a government job, you would understand that off hours it's a lot different. This cell's definitely getting a hook on it. Change this side here. So they're breaking up, and then these storms tend to huff and puff as they move along. They'll dump out all of the hail, and then they rebuild themselves. But it's still showing a meso detection, and it's this side of the storm right here. Shrink that up more. Tighten the program up a little. So it's split screen. You've got the regular on this side. You've got the regular reflectivity that you guys get in your apps, and then the more advanced side over here is wind velocity, and this is storm relative, meaning it subtracts the movement of the storm and the direction of the storm's movement from the winds to help better show the rotation. And at least the rotation right now is pretty broad, so it's more of a hail core situation, and it looks like it's shrinking up, but we can put it in motion as well. It flares up, and then you see the bright reds flare up as it's interacting with the ground. So that's probably a microburst. It's rotating around the hail core, more or less, on this cell, and then it gets thicker and redder, and then it thins out. So it's a life cycle replacement, almost like an eye wall in a hurricane, where they tend to dump out all the hail, and then they thin out, and then all that air that's displaced when the hail dumps out rushes back in, and it spins it back up, makes bigger, more hail, and then it starts over again. So it'll do this over and over in like 20-30 minute cycles, and puffs, sucks in, puffs it out, sucks in, puffs it out. And that's where you get these microbursts coming from, like the storm that went across the Maryland PA line on Easter Eve. But it's very small. It's only a couple miles wide. Let's measure it. It's about 12 miles wide, 13 miles wide. So for a supercell, that's pretty small. Very compact. Let's look at all the others in the area. Oops. So that cell moving through Friendsville just kind of fell apart right as it got to 68. That's a good sign. This cell is still chugging along, but it's definitely got a microbursting component to it with the hail that's inside. And on the other program I can show you, you can kind of see it a little better. So if you watch it as it moves along, you can see it change shape and then tends to get darker red, brighter color, and then the blues in the center. If you watch it, they come and go, come and go, come and go. And that's that microbursting happening as it's dumping out the hail and then sucking it back in, making more, back and forth, back and forth. It's amazing to see if you time lapse the world around you, like I do with the webcams. You start to notice different cycles on a grander scale than we can normally perceive. And it's important to understand what's happening around us to be able to do that. So if we track this along, move it over here so you can see the little green spinning guy. This is a meso tornado detection. It's green and then it turns yellow and then it's green again and it's bouncing back and forth. That's indicating that it's probably microbursting with the hail inside. And then you can see that blue core, it's moving around inside and disappearing and then returning, disappearing and returning. And that's the hail being built. It's drawing up all the hail it can hold with the winds. The inflow is what causes that as the raindrops get blown up inside the thunderstorm and they go up and freeze and then they get heavy and then they fall down and then they cycle up and down, up and down, up and down until they get thick enough and heavy enough that they're too heavy for the inflow winds to support, and then suddenly it just dumps out. And that's how you get a microburst happening. And as it dumps out, just like if you've ever thrown a bucket onto dry sand or really dry dusty dirt, when you throw that bucket of water or whatever out and it displaces that air and you see it dust ripple all up around where you just dumped it, that's exactly what's happening on a grander scale here. As the hail dumps out of the storm, like it's a tipped over bucket of hail, it displaces the air underneath the storm, and that's where those damaging winds come from. It's the exact same physics, just on a much larger scale. And with a downburst, it's even larger. So if a tornado can be an EF1 little tiny thing that barely does any damage, and an EF5 is a monster, 2-mile wide top end tornado that's extending inside the storm for miles and is as wide as a city. That's the scale of a tornado. Hail has a scale of the same size. Microbursts are the low end and a downburst is the high end. So this is getting the hail core going again. I'm just curious to see if this will hold together as it keeps moving. It's going so slow. It's really only moving about 20 miles an hour. So now we are up around 119 Philippi, Bellington area. And luckily this is pretty loosely populated. Till 8 p.m. So we're just going to keep an eye on it so you guys can see what's going on. Look at the velocity You can see the rotation. Whenever you get reds and greens together like that, it indicates rotation. And this is putting out about 50, 55 mile an hour gusts, at least at this height, which is around 10,000 feet. So let's look at the other options we have here. This is downbursting or downdraft gust potential. It's still loading. Actually, I think the mountains might be blocking it, but it's showing dark reds. This is storm relative velocity. This takes out the motion of the storm. So they've upped it to considerable on the warning. Meso detection 30,000. 30,000 K feet. 30 knots is not a lot, so a 30 knot rotation is what, 40 miles an hour, which means it's a 40 mile an hour rotation going inside that storm. And you got to remember that the radar can only see up in the sky. It cannot see what's happening underneath the storm, especially this far away. We're out at the edge. That's why we're getting this purple ring right here. That's kind of like the max limit where you can really tell what's happening clearly at the lowest levels. This far away from the Pittsburgh radar, we're talking 15, 20,000 feet up in the sky is the lowest we can see. So why we need those mobile radars. Gate to gate shear is still showing a good bit, and this is just from left to right. On this side of the storm it's blue, on this side of the storm it's bright orange and dark red, and dark, more vibrant colors equal slower speeds, and the brighter spots it is higher speeds. So the scale is at the top, but you can't see it. So the higher in the storm you get, the more crazy the winds get. I'm changing the different levels of scan. So this is the lowest, the ground level I can get. Then the next layer up, it's still there. And the next layer up, it's still there. The next layer up, it's starting to get widened out. And then it's leaning forwards a little bit. And then it's gone at halfway up. So that means it's in the bottom half of the storm, which is where a tornado would be. It's been crazy. This big low pressure center is parked out here, causing all this. Go back to the other radar, Omega app, and if I zoom out, yeah, they just added a new warning. Let's take a look at that real quick. Up to 1.75 inch hail. Damage threat considerable on this. So I'm going to issue a warning until 8:30 now. Severe thunderstorm. Golf ball size hail, 60 mile an hour gusts, and probably microbursting. Large hail up to golf ball size, covering the ground from reports. So it's doing damage. Let's hope it peters out before it gets up to you guys. Be right back. Yeah, I'm taking a break for a second. Um, if you have a question, I'll type it in the text. Trying to figure out why my music doesn't work. I think I got the music working again. Let me know in the text if you hear that. Basically, we're just watching these cells. They're moving very slowly at 20 miles an hour to the north to see if they're gonna be a problem. But they're calling out more up in the Pittsburgh area. These cells are definitely causing more damage in the area that was already hardest hit. Ridiculous. Especially on a Sunday evening. These storms are moving very slow. 20 miles an hour. But this cell here is really starting to concern me. You can see it huffing and puffing, splitting. There's a hail damage report. That little yellow triangle there. Train spotter, quarter size hail with some other sizes covering spots on the ground in Bellington at Audra State Park. So that's confirmed hail damage. And that just came in. And the train spotter is a Skywarn NWS train spotter. So this is still heading towards the Cheat Lake to Friendsville stretch of I-68 through Kingwood and Rollsburg, Terra Alta. Looks like Oakland it'll miss. Most of Garrett County it'll miss, but it will probably cut through right at, if you do the tracking on it. Still damage considerable. Check this out. So I have the ability to do like they do on TV and the Weather Channel. Let's stop this storm. Oops. This will tell us exactly where the storm is going and how long until it gets there. There you go. So this storm, Tacey, Quezon, Claude, Dent in the next half hour. Very close to Tacey in 2 minutes. Stevensburg, 40 minutes at this speed. Town, Macomber, Rollsburg, 60 minutes, so it's an hour away at this speed. Kingwood, 80 minutes. It's a very slow storm. So there's not much to do but sit here and watch. And we can analyze it. Split the screen into two. You can see the rotation in the center. Usually when the rotation is right in the center of the storm like that and not dragging along the southwest corner of the direction of the storm, that means it's a hail core and it's microbursting. Yeah, it looks like it's probably going to miss you. You're going to get the rain and the wind in Cheat Lake, but Cheat Lake's right over here. But the core of the storm is so small. I mean, this thing is only 10 miles wide at the moment. And like I said earlier, it's going to huff and puff and get bigger and smaller. It's got life cycles, especially when it's moving this slow. They do it a lot worse. I'll put it back in motion so you can watch it progress, and you'll see how it swells. And the purples and reds show up and disappear and show up and disappear. I can't say. I was a government employee with a top secret clearance on a DoD project. That's all I can say. I did it for I was a ballistic scientist. Actually, I tested military weapons and armor, and I had to be able to control my range conditions to meet the testing standards. I had to be able to reproduce any weather on Earth and the conditions for the testing. So I had to learn meteorology to be able to be the range manager and do the testing that I did for the United States military. I tested weapons, armor packages, including troop armor and vehicle armor, all the way up into, they would bring in sections of vehicles and equipment from both the private and military world. I did reconstruction for when certain troops that had scenarios in the early 2000s when we were in Fallujah doing the big second push, and then Afghanistan. I did a lot of the work on the IED program, and I did I'm not sure what I can still talk about. It's been a while, but I still have an NDA, and my clearance didn't expire until recently, so I still have 7 years afterwards to limit what I can say. But I worked on the second Fallujah push and the third Fallujah push and Afghanistan, all the way up until 2-3 years into Obama years when he cut back the military. And that's why I don't do it anymore, because he gutted the military. So unfortunately, I moved on to better things. It was stressful. I had to load bullets by hand and shoot with like full bird colonels and 2-star generals looking over my shoulder and stuff like that. So it was an interesting job for sure. Everybody's like, oh, you got to shoot for the government for a living? I'm like, it's not what you would think. You know, when they bring you a brand new weapons design and a whole pallet of ammunition to put through it for testing, it's like, oh great, you got to stand there and shoot. After 30 seconds, a fully automatic machine gun is not fun anymore. It becomes abusive, and have to do it for a whole week out in the heat. It's not fun. But I did the IED program. I was involved in that pretty heavily, where after the guys got blown up pretty bad overseas, we wanted to do the proper science on the explosions. I had to do a lot of recreations. I got a lot of actual equipment that was involved brought to my lab, and we had to rebuild and reconstruct the incident, and then reverse engineer it to figure out what the speeds of the fragments that come off of those explosions on the IED program, and we charted it, and we put it on paper, and we mapped out IED explosions fully so that we could better understand and build better armor to protect our troops. We just had a second thunderstorm warning added. So this cell is still huffing and puffing along. It's not letting up. I don't like that at all. Hail damage. They're talking about 1-inch quarter size or bigger hail coming down in carpets. They extended this new one out for an hour. Normally they only do half-hour increments, but this storm is moving so slow. They extended it all the way out to 9:15. So now we're starting to get right in between Kingwood and Oakland, it looks like, in the next hour, hour and a half. It's moving so slow, it's going to be probably 9:30 before it gets to Kingwood, Oakland. What is that, Terra Alta, Route 7? I've never been down Route 7. I've been to Cannon Valley and Deep Creek Lake and Oakland and all. I actually plan on moving out there somewhere between Deep Creek Lake and Berkeley Springs. I'm leaning towards Berkeley Springs, but I've got to move here soon, unfortunately. So yeah, if you guys want a former gunsmith and weapons expert, I don't like to talk about that, especially after what happened to me. But if you know anybody that needs a weapons expert, I used to run the PA gun show circuit for a long time, and then I managed a gun shop in Baltimore area called Bel Air Gun. I was the gunsmith and manager there for years, back in the early 2000s, and then they picked me up out of the gun shop to work at the lab. Actually, my mentor and boss was the guy who stopped Joseph Palczynski, the Baltimore, if you're old enough to remember, in Baltimore in the 90s there was a big, and it's still today, the longest standoff in US history. The Joseph Palczynski incident. Started out as a customer, Baltimore SWAT captain, that ended that scenario. Frank Barilli, he was my boss and mentor. He's the one who got me that job. We had a lot of fun there. And we saw a lot of bad stuff. Alright, let's flip to the other radar and get a deeper scan going. Storm is definitely getting large, and it's linked up to the other cell that was behind it. So the storm is getting worse, not better. We've got a definite hail core when this turns blue and puts a cone out on it. 80% probability of hail with a 40% probability of severe damaging hail. And you can see the blues are getting darker even before. So the storm is definitely picking up strength. So heading towards Rollsburg right now. I'm going to use this picture because it's a lot better. Send out a text warning. You guys hear the music? Before I send this text out and everybody's going to jump in here. We've only got 5 people watching right now. So it looks like we've got bots in here. All these weird messages you see show up are from bots. And then as soon as they start showing up and they don't get kicked out, they'll start swarming. And then we'll have a couple hundred of them in here before long. So this is the last storm. Excuse me. And it has definitely grown a lot. Let's go to the West Virginia cameras. See if I can find something. Not really any cameras in that area. This one was working, but it's not now. Look at that on screen. It's developing a secondary cell to the west of Morgantown. 59 miles per hour. I think this might be a microburst or downburst coming out of the side of this storm, moving in this direction. And the automated system is just picking it up as a secondary cell. Let's put it in motion and see what's going on. Because that cell's already been passed. So that's not it. Yeah, we're right at the edge of the limit of where the advanced radar tends to work. So it's kind of hard to tell, but that's not a good sign. This shows the downdraft potential in the storm. Basically, a microburst is a downdraft, and it's showing a pretty good blast aimed right at Rollsburg, and then the hail core is behind that. So as that hail dumps out of that cell right here and is being dumped out, and the lightning is generated in the hail core as that hail rubs together in the sky, that's what generates that hot lightning. And then out from that area where the lightning is developed is where this gust comes out from. In any direction these microbursts can shoot out. And then if you imagine this was left to right instead of southwest to northeast, as a cell moves forwards, a supercell thunderstorm, and matures into a tornadic event, your hail core, or the core of the storm in the center, always develops that that tornado vortex to the south and west, dragging behind. And that's exactly where this is, mesodetection. So this may be a funnel cloud type situation, because this has been with this storm the whole time, the past hour and a half. And on the velocity, storm-related velocity, right behind the hail core you've got rotation, and off to the side you've got rotation. So this is a mature cell, it's growing. It's getting that structure, that supercell structure. It's becoming a dangerous cell. So we can analyze this really well with this program here. So that's a 60-mile-an-hour gust coming out of that storm right now, towards the eastern Rollsburg. $60-mile-an-hour right there, just south of Rollsburg, east of Rollsburg, right now. This is why this program is so much better. And we also have a hail core. %90 hail detection, 60% probably damaging, chance over 1-inch hail, golf ball size. So this is a dangerous storm. Go gate to gate shear. Oh yeah, that's a lot of shear. That is a gust coming out. That's got to be a gust coming out of that storm. It's not a secondary cell. That is a big down. That's a big downburst coming out of the left or west facing side of that storm. It doesn't look damaging, but it's definitely there. And you can see it's kind of spreading out. So this is basically set up like an engine. You have your engine in the center, which is the hail pumping up and down inside that cell. And that's how hail is built. It's something grabs a raindrop, it forms ice around it as it gets blown from the storm sucking in the air in the front. And you felt that before when you get near a big thunderstorm and the air is blowing in towards the storm, and then as you get past it a certain point, you notice that it's blasting out of the storm, and that's the front flank downdraft and rear flank downdrafts coming out of it, and then the inflow to the cell sets up around that supercell structure when it gets mature enough. So you'll have jets of air racing in from certain directions, and then you'll have jets of air racing out in certain directions. And with this, it's got these jets of microbursting and downbursting areas. We've got a vortex signature. Just appeared. Right on the edge of that ring of the radar's limitations too, because we're so far from Pittsburgh. So that's a new hail detection with a meso on top of it. Rotation detection and hail detection at the same time. And this is basically what's happened is either this storm got blown apart by the hail dumping out and pushed off to the west, and now it's forming a new cell over here from a downburst, or this is developing a secondary cell and transferring its energy over to it as a life cycle. So it's rare to have two mesos in one storm. So Terra Alta's next. It's in Rollsburg right now. It's moving very slow. Yeah, it looks like it's a transfer of energy. It might just be forming a new core, a hail core. Because it's very slow. But I can pin out the structure of this storm. Big blast that came out earlier slowed down to about 53 miles an hour and heading out towards the Maryland line from the east side of the cell. And I can tell how fast the rotation is, all of that. Yeah, this was a very mature cell. Doesn't like that. Keeps highlighting that secondary cell forming. It's not much to it, it's just there. It's not really doing much. 10, 20 mile an hour winds. It's been out on the ground now for what? Almost 2 hours, maybe 3. The cell actually started way down in Clarksburg, or I'm sorry, Charlestown actually, I think. When I first picked up on it, it was like 6 o'clock, and it was way down here, just outside of Charleston. It's been moving slowly up 79. Meanwhile, up in Pennsylvania, they've got a flood warning, flash flood warning now. These poor people. Program's freezing up. I'm gonna reboot it. I've got some kind of bloatware on my laptop I gotta find causing these problems. The longer my laptop is up, the more stupid it gets. And they've extended the severe thunderstorm warning. There's the world view in this program. Rotate the globe around to us. Zoom in. Turn that live scan back on. We're scanning taking a deep scan of the storms because I just turned the system back on. Rebooting takes a minute. It'll take a couple sweeps and then it'll start the live scan. Fast sweep. Yeah, I see that. It stops and flashes whenever it finds something it doesn't like to alert me to it. Absolutely, Mike. At least you're in the green zone now, Mike, so you're good to go. You'll get rain and lightning and probably a hell of a show, but have a good night. So our supercell down here is getting a very mature hail core back on it. 1.5 inch hail now. We got a meso developing on that secondary cell towards Newburgh, but it's very, very, very light. When it's green, it's not of concern. If it's under a 5. But we've got 2 mesos on 2 separate cells, and then the third cell is the hail core itself. And whenever you see these bright colored returns like this, that's a heavy, heavy hail return. We can scan it for hail size. So we're up over an inch, 1.5 inches. A lot of gate-to-gate shear on this storm. This is a very mature cell. When it looks like it may be getting to the point where it's getting too big for its britches, and it's either going to start splitting up or it may gust out, which is the sign that you look for when you see a dry gust front blow out. And when you see that come out of a thunderstorm, that usually means its final death exhale. Yeah, thick hail. That's what a hail core looks like on correlation coefficient. This radar tells us the size and dimensions of whatever's flying around. So when you have a tornado that's very powerful, drawing everything up into it, including, you know, pieces of homes and cars and stuff like that on an extreme scale, you'll see these big, thick blue circles right where the meso detection is. But this is just 2 hail cores, here and here. And then if there's a tornado on the ground, you'll get a blob like this that's almost perfectly round as it draws everything up, trees, limbs, trash cans, you know, on a small one, to a large tornado. It's going to be a huge bluish black dropout. I've seen out west some nasty ones, and then it gets drawn up into the storm, and then it spreads out in every direction as it's sucking it up like a vacuum cleaner and blowing it out of the top of the storm. It's incredible to witness and scary at the same time, because you know that's destroying people and lives. So we're extended now till 9:30. It looks like the life cycle is ending on this storm. See how this is all spread out? This is the top of the storm. It's reached maturity. And we're seeing the top of that anvil head that's extremely blown out at the top. So if we were looking from the side, you would see that classic anvil structure, and this is the top. The actual storm is probably smaller underneath here and shrinking. The hail is still pretty substantial. It's still got mesocyclone detections. But this is a big gusting out. I'm starting to see lightning on the Deep Creek Lake camera every now and then. Let's look at the basic setup here. It's about to cross into Maryland near Mountain Lake Park and 219, heading towards Friendsville, Accident, Grantsville eventually if it makes it there. But it looks like the life cycle might be ending on this cell. It's starting to grind up against the ridge, the big ridge there, with the big peaks on there. So it could spin up a small tornado, or as it interacts with that, get a funnel cloud going, but most likely it's just on its way out as it's spreading out. Still got a lot of lightning, a lot of big hail. Big hail core on that last return. See that white? It's rare to see white in a storm on the East Coast. That's very powerful. Very heavy return. It's maxed out 65, 75 decibel radar return. So that's a heavy hail core or debris blowing up. It looks like a gust coming out. A big gust blowing out of the side of the storm. Or it could be a tornado. A very, very weak tornado with a debris signature on it. Oh yeah, look at that. So this may end up with a tornado warning. I'm surprised it hasn't had one yet, but it is Sunday night. Everything's pretty much automated. There's nobody really working, but if you look at that second hail core, it could be confusing it for small debris too. And that's where, as this actual hail core we've been tracking that we know has produced hail damage. Up here, it's rare to have a secondary hail core tracking along with it. That usually means that it could be a tornado, but it does have a mesocyclone, a weak tornado, and it's sucking up debris. And that'll look like it's got a tornado will make that debris blow up into the storm. And if it's just small debris, you know, limbs and sticks and dirt and debris and crap like that, it's going to be similar to how a hail core looks to the radar. Correlation coefficient can't really tell the difference that well, from especially this far away from the main radar site. Also, that's dragging along that ridge line, and that's what concerns me. As that storm drags against that heavy big ridge right there, you can see, and all you locals will know, that will make that storm spin against it like a gear as it hits that big wall. It's like a fence. So it wouldn't surprise me if we find out that there was tornado damage, or at least big microburst damage. That hail core is so thick it's putting a shadow out. Look at that. When you get a monster hail core, it makes a shadow as that radar sweeps by. And that's got a big hail shadow. It's even extending out. If it's on reflectivity, it's bad. That might be 2-inch hail. Yeah, see how it's showing off down to the side? That's because the radar is looking this direction. It hits that hail and it bounces back off, and it makes that radar extend in an error out behind it because it can't see anything behind it. And we saw that the reflectivity was maxed out at white, 65, 75 decibels there for a minute. Right there. That could have been from that too, because it's rare for a 65, 75 decibel radar return. So that could be a monster hail core as it's getting between Kingwood and these other towns here, Terra Alta. So they're just getting coated right through here. If we go to the other program, switch back over. I can zoom in tight. We can see exactly where. Got a new hail core report there, just south of Rollsburg. 1 inch or larger hail. Public reports, and that is in Macomber, West Virginia. Look at that thing split. That's so rare to see that happen. This is a crazy storm. They're going to be talking about this one for a couple days. These intense hail core returns at maxed out dB. Looks like the bots have found us and they're starting to pile in the comment section. They just post random things.
8 Tom Center, show us an out. You're going to be en route to the address of 21 North Street in Rollsburg. Can you switch secure, please?
Looks like I was correct. The storm is gusting out a little bit, but it is definitely shrinking fast, losing its power, and they have allowed the thunderstorm warnings to expire. So hail size is down. The whole overall size of the storm is down. So it's still going to be producing lightning. It's still dangerous to be outside, and it's still probably producing hail with these bright returns over towards Route 26 between Kingwood and Brewston Mills. But it's shrinking quickly.
649. Break.
Call center, can you repeat the address, please?
10-10. Caller was calling from her residence at 21 North Church Street. She's advising that her husband should be near the intersection of North Church Street and East Catherine Street on a side-by-side break.
Message received.
10-10. I'm to get her to go to where the patient is and call 911 from her cell phone. To get a better location, she's advising there's going to be a white truck with its headlights on at that location as well.
There.
Portable, sir, again.
I should be on scene here within a couple seconds. Do you have anything further you need from us?
Portable 3, copy, stand by.
Go ahead, call center.
10-3, it's going to be for a 69-year-old male. EMS was wanting fire page due to them being caught behind a train. Break.
That's copy, call center. I just got on scene.
10-3, that's Steve.
It is blocking both lanes. We did make it around to go on through, but it is blocking both lanes.
682, that's copy. We'll give you H75.